Hi everyone, I'm Patricia Poppenbeek, and it was my proposal at an AFTS conference a few years ago that started this whole project of the anthology. And I've been the chairperson of the committee that has been steering us through this adventure. Anyway, my story, The Red Dress, is one of several stories in this anthology which belong to the Lost Child, Little Red Riding Hood theme. I've always been fascinated by Little Red Riding Hood because I always found it very suspicious that the mother dressed her little girl in a red cape and sent her off through a dark green forest bearing a basket of goodies to a grandmother who was living on her own in this wolf-infested forest. Did we have a case here of elder abuse? Anyway, these thoughts combined with recent stories, modern stories of parents basically handing their children over to people who took advantage of them, plus my own experience as a teacher with strong, resilient young women, were my thoughts as I was writing The Red Dress. I don't want to go, I said to my stepfather. I glanced at Mum, but her eyes were on him, her whole body thin and anxious. I hated that. It meant she was hurting for the drugs, and I looked away. Troy peered at me over his glasses. We're a family-friendly company, Isabel. That means when Martin asks us to bring our families to dinner, we bring them to dinner. He paused. Unless you don't regard us as a family? Unless you don't think it's important I keep my job? Uh-oh. I felt my face heat up. He was going to go troppo. Mum looked beseechingly at me. I'm sorry, I mumbled. And, he prompted, God, I hated him, which was kind of ironic. I'd liked him quite a lot when Mum first took up with him, though after the others I'd been careful not to get attached. When he actually stayed, I'd been so relieved. She was happy and I didn't have to look after her so much. She cut down on the oxy and the other stuff, put on a bit of weight and looked much prettier. And he moved us out of Nan's old house into a new 2-story house in Brunswick. I miss Nan, but not her house, where I slept in the same room as Mum, and everything smelled musty and slugs oozed round the kitchen sink at night. The school in Brunswick was way nicer than the one in West Meadows too. The kids actually sat on their seats in class and didn't give so much shit in the yard. I started sort of enjoying classes and getting good marks. Me quitting my Macca's job at Troy's insistence probably helped with that too. I stopped feeling sleepy all the time and being late for school. The only problem was it was way harder to visit Nan, so I didn't see her near as often, but that didn't seem to bother anyone except me and Nan. Anyway, and, he said again, and I'll go to this dinner, I muttered. Good, he said, flashing me his smile. I'll be accompanied by the best-looking women in the room. I hated it when he talked like that. Lauren, make sure Isabel's appropriately dressed. 2 weeks later, I gazed in the mirror. Stop hunching, darling, Mum said. Her eyes were bright, the pupils dilated. An odd look flickered over her face. You're a lovely young woman. Stop acting like you're ashamed of it. The bare back and shoulders and the short skirt made me feel exposed, but I told myself at least my boobs are pretty well covered. And I had to admit the rose-red dress suited me, bringing out my black hair and eyes and white skin. Great for goth look, but blur otherwise. And, like no way Troy would have stood for me dressing goth. Frowning slightly, Mum touched my back. What have you done to yourself? I turned to look at my back in the mirror and stared. There were 2 parallel, slightly raised bruises between my shoulder blades, and now I was aware of them, they felt a bit sore and itchy. So, to find out what these mysterious raised bruises are on Isabel's back, you will need to buy this book, and I hope you enjoy it. And here it is. Thank you.